Good morning to you. I do hope that you're keeping well, and I'm glad as ever to have an opportunity to read the scriptures with you and to share a short reflection on this Transfiguration Sunday. And so firstly, our Old Testament reading, which today is taken from 2 Kings 2, verses 1 through 12. Elijah ascends to heaven. Now when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me as far as Bethel." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. The company of prophets who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you not know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" And he said, "Yes, I know. Keep silent." Elisha said to him, "Elisha, stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they came to Jericho. The company of prophets who were at Jericho drew near to Elisha and said to him, "Do you not know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" And he answered, "Yes, I know. Be silent." Then Elijah said to him, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me to the Jordan." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. 50 men of the company of prophets also went, and stood at some distance from them, as they both were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his mantle, and rolled it up, and struck the water. The water was parted to the one side and to the other, until the two of them crossed on dry land. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me what I may do for you before I am taken from you." Elisha said, "Please let me inherit a double share of your spirit." He responded, "You have asked a hard thing. Yet, if you see me, as I am being taken from you, it will be granted to you. If not, it will not." As they continued walking and talking, a chariot of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them, and Elijah ascended in a whirlwind into heaven. Elisha kept watching and crying out, "Father, Father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." But when he could no longer see him, he grasped his own clothes and tore them in 2 pieces. Our Gospel reading for today is taken from Mark's Gospel, and is Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 9, the Transfiguration. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, and led them up a high mountain apart, by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen, until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. I'm sure that we all enjoy being with people at high points in their lives. Today, our reading from Mark's Gospel focuses on one of the high points in the life of Jesus, and the story itself is set on a high mountain. 6 days after Peter's confession at Caesarea Philippi, Jesus took 3 of his disciples, Peter, James and John, and went up a mountain to pray. This mountain was most likely Mount Hermon, which is 9,400 feet high and only about 14 miles from Caesarea Philippi. While there, up high, suddenly the disciples see Jesus in a kind of glorified state. He was transfigured before them. The Greek word for transfigured is more literally metamorphosed, indicating that there was a radical change in the glorious dazzle of his clothes and the brightness of his presence. As the story continues, we hear that the disciples saw Moses and Elijah with Jesus in this transfiguration, and quite understandably, this sight terrified them. For Mark's Jesus, the significance of this transfiguration was the way in which Mark presents this account as a way of confirming his ministry and God's approval upon his understanding of his own ministry. Here God shows his affirmation and approval of Jesus, his life and his work. Appearing with Jesus are Moses, the great and first lawgiver of Israel, and Elijah, the greatest of the Hebrew prophets. God's voice from the clouds affirms, "This is my Son, the beloved, listen to him." We note that Moses and Elijah were servants, but Jesus is called my beloved Son. Also, we note how God spoke out of the cloud. For Israel, a cloud had often symbolized the presence of God. So Mark's message for Jewish readers was clear. Here is the one who was greater than the lawgiver Moses and greater than Elijah, the greatest of the prophets. Here is the one who will begin a new exodus, a new covenant, a new relationship with God. Mark also presents the Transfiguration as a witness and an encouragement to Jesus' disciples. This mountaintop experience was also for the disciples an affirmation of who Jesus was. Here God affirmed in their minds that the ministry in which Jesus was engaged with was indeed the work and ministry that God had planned for him. No doubt this vision helped them understand more deeply the genuine ministry of Jesus, even if they would not fully grasp its meaning until after the resurrection. Perhaps we wonder about the significance of this wonderful but slightly strange story for those of us reading this text today. Is there anything we can draw from it that may encourage us in our own faith journeys? Well, one writer helpfully suggests that the story reminds us to look up and to look down. And we may find some inspiration here. Firstly, we are reminded to look up. Just as the disciples looked up to Jesus in the Transfiguration, we too would do well to look up, so to speak, to be sustained in our walk with God. When we feel burdened, when we're struggling, we are reminded to look for resources beyond ourselves. We are prompted to lean into God, to find strength and help through our trust in God. Next, we are reminded to look down. In the story, the disciples had such a marvelous experience on that high mountain that they decided that they wanted to make it permanent. They wanted to prolong that wonderful experience, and hence Peter offers to build 3 dwellings in a bid to find some way to make this passing moment permanent. No one can blame them for wanting to preserve the divine presence. Who wouldn't? But it was not to be. I'm sure we remember times or places where we experience God in a particular way, in a special way. We thank God for those thin places. That's a phrase with roots within the Celtic tradition. We thank God for those thin places where we have felt especially close to the divine. But we know that those moments pass, that there are many ways to encounter God within our world. And so we do not seek to settle in the past. Jesus challenged his disciples to look down the mountain into the valley and to see the needs waiting to be met and the possibilities of new encounters with God. He pointed to a father whose epileptic son was brought to the other disciples and they were not able to cure him. He reminded his disciples that they could not just meditate on a mountain. A time comes to go down from the mountain and for us then to do our very best to love and care and serve in a world where there is great suffering and pain. And so may God guide us and strengthen us as we look to new possibilities and seek to minister to those who are in need. Amen. God bless you. Take care. Goodbye for now.